Thank you for joining me on the Dancing Bear podcast. I'm your host, JT, and today we have one of my oldest friends on the show, Matt Smith. We're going to talk about growing up together and what he has been up to for a while and get into politics, one of his big things. So enjoy the show.
This is fun.
Hey, everybody. This is JT, and I'm sitting here with my buddy Matt, and we were just talking about how no one wants to hear about his life, which I think is hilarious. Because he's like, let's just jump into politics, and but I'm sitting here with Matt Smith. Basically grew up together, two grades ahead of me, and
Eternally.
Well, I mean, I like to think that I'm a little more intelligent. I may not watch CNN 24/7, but I'm
C-SPAN. Come on now.
the C-SPAN.
Don't insult me with that.
I apologize. But I'm gonna let my guest introduce himself and let him talk a little bit, and we'll go from there.
Hello, YouTubers. Hello, world. This is Matt Smith checking in from Planet Earth, and I just wanted to say hello. Yeah, my background is that me and John grew up together, and I figure, like John said, that's pretty boring, so we're gonna skip right past that and get into the good stuff.
So, Matt and I lived in Raytown for a long time growing up, for all like the golden years. Raytown, Missouri, Raytona Beach, for those who know about it, which was good times. It was a good time growing up, and then it got bad. It was not fun.
It's a changing.
Which we'll probably delve into later about the economic and political structure of Raytown. I just said don't talk about.
Disclaimer.
I just
These
said
statements do not represent our employers.
Don't represent me.
Or JT.
That's what I'm saying. I told Matt, I'm like, just don't get me on any kind of list, any kind of watch list where people are knocking on my door.
If you're listening to this, you have been flagged.
I'm sure we'll talk about Black Flag operations and all that fun stuff. But that's just basically our background. But we're going to kind of jump into some politics, which is kind of Matt's deal, which he's going to talk about. His obsession. And what he's going to do is, by the way, give out your Twitter handle, because I think that will set the mood of this.
Yes. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can do so at the @sign.
@sign, yeah.
The hippie. THEHIPI. That's it. So
hashtag the hippie.
So a tweet, and I'd be happy to argue endlessly with you about politics and have no results or
I kind of
conclusions.
I really want to see what people say to you. It's going to be awesome.
Right. I'm gonna get so much hate mail.
Because
not at all.
Well, I reconnected with Matt because he lives downtownish and I work downtown, so we had lunch one day, and I'm looking around and it's basically down by Crown Center, if anyone knows where that is, and I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I know Matt, but we seem to see people like how they grew up, like like growing up, I know how Matt looked growing up, and Matt now looks different. He looks like Jesus. Picture, like, not completely white Jesus, not like on on the cross crucifixion style, because you're not that agonized. But dude, I don't think you have the abs. I don't think you have the abs either.
No, I need to work on that as I drink my beer.
I'm getting him loaded so we can talk about ISIS, ISIS and the political structure, and the United States as a war machine.
Let's get into that. Who cares?
There you go. Okay, so anyway, but
I don't care about you either. This is all. Let's just talk.
But by the way, hold on. This is my podcast, and I'm setting the ground.
Right. Thank you. I'm taking it
over. So Jesus,
I'm like a 9/11 plane.
Jesus comes walking up to me like freshman year Jesus, and and comes up, and I'm like, Matt, and he's like, John, and I go, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? And then
what happened to you?
Is that what you said to me, or I said to you?
You said to me,
right? I didn't say it out loud. I mean, the
course.
the look of it was like, oh my god. But then so we were sitting down. We ran through of oh, how are your parents? How's life? All that, and then we are like, so what about Obama? Or like those very
That's what
nice,
it said.
very nice. It just this tells you the caliber we're at, people, and we are 5 minutes in.
We're keeping it real, folks.
So
Keeping it real.
let's start off with what are kind of your political views?
Yes, I'm a radical Christian pacifist.
A Christian pacifist?
Yes, I'm a pacifist. I'm by most people's standards I'd probably be a socialist, so
A socialist.
I am to the far left of everyone you've ever known.
I swear to God, if you don't keep that mic in front of you,
Oh,
like
right.
you
Sorry.
can look at me, but you can kind of turn that mic.
Yeah,
and you can
I'm
kinda raise
getting
that
used
mic.
to the system.
But this is what a lot of people are hearing. They're hearing, I'm a radical socialist, and they don't, eventually I will get video set up for this, but
Yeah.
I'm ugly enough, so I'm letting people just imagine what I look like when my voice sounds like.
Lovely.
So where do you fall on the political
so
lines? Like
I am.
I would think you're kind of in a niche. You're kind of in a selective group. I don't think there's anyone that really speaks to you particularly.
Ralph Nader would be my hero.
Nader?
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is.
What's he doing?
He's still kicking. He is just out there spreading the good word, and nobody wants to listen.
So, okay. So let's take healthcare. How do you feel about healthcare? The
I think we
healthcare
should have
situation.
universal health care for free for everyone. I don't know
For
why.
everyone. Everyone.
I think it should be part of our tax. 50.
So raise taxes.
No, we could. There's all sorts of ways. You could cancel the wars, and then we could have health care instead. That'd be one way they could do it.
Cancel the wars.
Right? Cancel the wars.
Cancel
That's
the
what
wars.
I say.
Okay.
Yeah, we can push those back for another year.
Well, yeah, but then we
No, seriously though, yeah, no. FDR 60 years ago called for a second Bill of Rights that we've all somehow been stolen from. If you don't remember that 60 years ago, our president, thank you, John, FDR,
that's a lot.
called for a new Bill of Rights that had economic Bill of Rights. One of which was universal health care.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was a free housing for all.
Yeah.
Third, well, there's 5 new ones, right? So that's 1, 2. The third one was a job for all, a job for any able and willing adult who is.
What
able-bodied.
about a job
More.
to deny people those rights? I mean, that's a job.
Yeah, I think we'd opt out of that.
So we can opt out of that.
against that
Opt
one.
out. Okay, I'm just saying, someone's got to have the job to tell people no, right?
It is good to create jobs.
Yeah, good to create jobs. Just a department of no, like no, you cannot.
That's our current government. We have a whole bureaucracy already built up around no.
That's true.
We need some new yes people.
Well, yeah. It really kind of seems that way. I think a lot of the way it is now, it's like, F you, pay me, and it sounds kind of like, oh, that's what a bro would say, but it's like
the hospital to the person is if you pay me, or the person to the hospital is if you pay me.
The hospital and the doctor and the healthcare system, and I don't, by no means do I think it's at any ways where it should be along those lines. I think that the thing that I don't think a lot of people are doing is really caring. Like there's not a patient in front of these people, that there's just it's just nameless face looking for a bottom line. This service costs this. Does that make sense? And I feel like obviously this country is all about who can. It's the land of opportunity. That's the way it's been. It's that Puritan type mentality that, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get what I want and I'm going to go to church on Sundays and that makes everything okay. Do you kind of feel that that's kind of the way it still is?
I think, healthcare now is just sort of the opposite of the Hippocratic Oath, right? It's supposed to be all about care over anything else and duty to provide care, and I think it's kind of a joke. I mean, we don't really, if you have cancer in America, we will let you die. It's not. We don't really provide. The whole system to me seems inverted.
I think it's
And so I think we
crazy.
should take out the whole profit motive entirely.
You think so?
And just make it a public service where you walk like it is in England, where you walk in and you're cared for, and there's not any cost because you've already paid into society.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be hard. It's. I think that there's a lot of forces that are against that idea for mostly monetary reasons. But I don't think it's that. I mean, every other rich country in the world has done it, so it can't be that hard.
True.
We're not as capable as everyone in Europe and Australia.
Well, they're Europeans. And now I don't want to discredit. Like I want to keep the European market because I really feel like there's a lot of Europeans. There's Asia. I really want to keep. Like I
I
want
don't
to
know
keep.
if they qualify as Europeans.
They don't, but there's Europe and then Asia. You know what I mean? Like I
Okay.
like everything but the United States. I don't mind alienating a few people from the United States, but Europe. I mean, I kind of want to keep that market open because I think it's crazy that there are bands that maybe strike it like a one hit. I know this is a little bit off topic, but then you're like, what the heck ever happened to that band? And they've just been over in Europe for like 15 years, freaking crushing it.
Yeah.
Like they're like, what? Oh, that one hit wonder. They're like, oh no, man, they've been on the charts for like 20 years, and all they do is play prog. Like that's crazy to me. So it's like, it's also kind of along those lines of everyone. They're like, oh, we're just America. We think like Americans, and there's not a global view. And I do think, because I've been to Europe a few times, that most of the time it's regular people, but as an overview, it's like, oh, there's an American. He must be kind of snobbish and those sort of things. I've never really come across, except the Welsh. I hate the Welsh. The Welsh are rude people. I don't mind alienating them because
Fuck
they're
the Welsh.
exactly #fuck the Welsh. Now the podcast has become not safe for work.
Right. Hey, the Irish and the English love us though. Right?
Well, I mean, I'm both those, so I'm cool with that. But yeah, I feel like the European view is, sometimes the different programs, the political programs out there are like, Europe hates us and blah blah blah, and it's like, sure, but when
I
you're
don't really care, to be honest.
yeah,
About obviously it's important that for world diplomatic relations, but in terms of like how a French person treats an American in France, I mean I should they're nicer, but
the French.
But what do we care? They don't care. They don't, I mean.
I like that they work for like 4 hours and then just like, because that's how I work.
They get a whole month of vacation.
That's what I'm saying. They just take
August
off.
is just a non.
It's just
month.
Hey, hang out and and I like that they're like Italian. This is horrible ignorant American right now.
I think that's why they have that view of us, is because they're like, you idiot, you work all August and you don't have universal health care. What are you letting those people do to you?
It's
what
that,
the hell are you doing over there?
It's that Puritan work ethic of if I work, and I don't, because Europeans are a lot looser in tons of different ways, but the Americans are like, oh, don't do that. Let's burn that book. That book said something bad.
They definitely are not as good on freedom.
Yeah. Well, it's like freedom, but it's
their economic models.
Yeah, it's picky choosy freedom with America. Like, we were talking about different situations where, if you make enough of an uproar over something that wasn't even involving really anything, then it didn't hurt anyone or anything like that. But you're just like, I don't like that. That's a mean comment. I mean, that's why we're here. We can say whatever we want. I mean,
yeah, they really don't have freedom of speech in Europe. Yeah, in England. Like if you were to say something racist, I think you could actually be like charged with a crime. I mean, well, yeah. Maybe I'm an ignorant American here, but I believe that's the case, which is I think way too far.
In Russia, they just shoot you.
Yes,
they don't.
They just send you to the gulag.
Well,
and disappear.
They see if there's extra room in one of their cages, and then if there's not, you go and you become like. One of the things that scared me about China was they talked about how they were harvesting prisoners' organs.
Yeah, that was pretty frightening. Well, remember that human exhibit that came to Union Station that was Chinese prisoners' skin and yeah.
And it wasn't like I thought it would be worse than what it was. Like you would think, oh, it's a freshly chopped body. It's like, no, this just kind of dried and not. It's pretty clinical and stuff like that. But I
Did
looked.
you see that human body exhibit?
I went
Yeah.
there.
Well, did you hear about the whole controversy? Because they said it was Chinese prisoners.
Yeah. I don't.
I don't know how you feel. It seems
you might
kind
have
of.
to-
I mean, I went and saw it. I thought it was cool.
I thought it was.
But
cool
knowing that
too.
they were prisoners whose bodies were
Are
involuntarily.
you sure?
used
We
for-
might have to Snopes that. We might
Let's
have
do
to
it.
Snopes.
Let's do it right now. We've got it
No,
back in
no. You know what? Hashtag
You YouTubers
Snopes.
hopefully will call us out on
and
this.
please, and also give your Twitter handle out again right now.
I've already forgotten it. What, did we make that up? Was it real?
No, you have a real
that-
Twitter handle.
Oh, right. Just Google search for Matt Smith.
There you
You'll
go.
find- You'll definitely.
Oh,
there's only
okay.
a few of me.
There's only a few
So
Smiths
that-
out there.
No, it's the hippie. THEHIPI.
Yeah, he
I would
doesn't.
love your comments and criticism and hate mail.
Please.
Send it all to me.
Please, I'm getting them all types of boozed up, and it's just getting better.
Welsh.
The
They're so
hashtag
angry.
F the Welsh.
Get a lot of mail from them. Comments.
Directed towards him, not me, because I'm not even
course.
going to open your mail.
JT's number is 555.
555
867
5309. 5309. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, sure, let's go with it.
What do you think about healthcare, John?
What do I
Thinking
think
back
about
to our-
healthcare? What do I
Yeah,
think about
it's-
healthcare?
You don't think it should be a publicly funded free-for-all system?
I think so, but I mean, a private healthcare is awesome. And,
We could have both.
well, exactly, and I just
We could have Medicaid for all.
well, and that's
Medicaid
the thing.
for
There's
all plus if you want to buy.
there's
private.
tons of different
Go ahead.
programs. The problem is I don't think that there's anyone really creative out there that's creating programs that can be almost small instead of, hey, everyone's covered, here's your number, go to the doctor, instead of creating smaller plans in different communities, pilot programs, see how it goes. I know that there's stuff going on in was it Massachusetts?
Mhm.
But didn't Ted Kennedy do some stuff up there?
Yeah, well,
Other than
yeah, and Mitt Romney actually is the one who passed the current version of, well, it's like Obamacare. They called it Romney Care.
yeah, Romney Care.
And then he came out against it.
Well,
years
yeah,
later
because
Obama was for it. So
Obama. Thanks, Obama. Hashtag thanks, Obama. That's going to be uttered a lot. I don't know. I don't think that there's an easy solution to anything. Obviously, because there's so
wait.
many
So
people
yes or no?
involved.
Do you support the publicly funded healthcare for all or not? Let's get a firm. position.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm not sure I got an answer.
You're
on
going to put
that.
me on the spot right now
Well, what else are we here for?
to have a conversation. Not to just have this is what I stand for. No, I think every American should be taken care of to the best of the abilities that they can do. You know that
I'm still not sure if I understand your answer.
I do see. I can't say that I believe in universal health care because there's already programs that are out there called universal health care. Correct?
No, not in America.
Well, not in America, but the other models, and I don't think that the other models work for us.
Why not?
I just don't think they do because they're different countries.
Yeah.
They're different philosophies. Canada's completely different than us. There's not American. Well, there are Americans up in
That's
Canada,
different.
but
It's only like a mile over, many cities that are a mile away from the border.
really.
I mean, you get the point, right? We're so connected. What's the difference? We're speaking
yeah.
English, it's the
Okay,
same
we're all
culture.
white people. Okay.
Right, exactly. We're basically the same. I mean,
Oh, okay.
they speak
Then,
funny, but besides that, is it really?
I think that there's other issues. Not saying that healthcare is one of the lower issues, but poverty. There's so many different war. I mean, there's so many, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to skirt the issue by saying I don't, but
Yeah.
long and short of it, it would be great. But that's like,
Well, I think there's this fear of it, like not working, but Medicaid's the most popular healthcare in existence, right?
don't
I mean,
do you know? Don't ask me.
Yeah, they have one of the highest. I mean, I don't know if it's the most popular, but they have one of the highest approval
Mhm.
ratings, and of any private insurance. Medicaid is one of the highest rated.
But
So
do you
if
think
they're
it's?
doing, if they're
well,
doing well?
yeah.
What are we
But is
afraid
it
of?
because it's lower income people in Medicare?
Well, Medicare. Let's see. No, Medicare is only for the old. So
Okay.
Medicaid is for low income,
Oh, okay.
but Medicare is for 55 or maybe it's 65 and older. I've forgotten the exact date.
The baby boomer type deal.
Yeah, anyone who reaches that age becomes eligible for Medicaid. So they're old people. I mean, elderly people and younger people or
Do you think
over
you
50 or
should?
whatever. But they're all walks of life, right? So it's not
Yeah.
just one group.
Do you think you would make a good healthcare czar?
I don't want a healthcare czar. I'm not really sure what. I mean, the whole system that exists, I'm not in favor of, right? So as I said before, I'm a
F the
radical.
establishment.
No, not entirely. The establishment in Britain, I think, is a great idea with
Yeah.
healthcare, right? So I'm not always anti-establishment. I just think that what we have now is radically fucked up, and so therefore, Obamacare, which is like piecemeal change, which is like here we'll make it a little bit better for you, but it's still the same beast. It's the same monster. So I think no, get rid of the monster, or at least give us another option. And if somebody chooses to get private care. But I guess maybe we're belaboring that point.
Yeah, like obviously I think everyone, unless you're a complete psychopath and just out for yourself, would like everyone to be taken care of and like the world to be better. And I think that there's obviously other different things to work on. I mean, the thing that blows my mind is people go, "Oh, if we get this president in, this will change." Or well, if we get if this person gets elected, then this will change. Everyone skirts every issue by saying, "Oh, we're just fixing the mess from the previous one." Mm-hmm. So messes are getting handed off to the next person, but I mean, seriously, it's like those just hand it off. Oh, last one to touch it. Last one to touch it becomes
the hot potato.
Exactly. It's a political hot potato. Just everything. Like, when they.
Well, I think some of that is because nobody wants to give the people what they want and what works, which is a publicly funded healthcare for all system. And so as long as so much money is coming from people who benefit from the current system, then all of them are touching a hot potato because it's a hot potato that they refuse to give back to the people.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a hot issue because they won't give. In my view, they won't give us what the majority of people think is a good system. Not to say not necessarily Obamacare is what majority of people will support, but I think that if you poll people on Medicaid for all, an overwhelming majority of people support that. So I think that's why it's such a hot issue, really.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where if everyone thought the same, you could be like, oh, well, if I think this way, everyone else thinks this way. And there's, and there are the people that are like, that definitely think, you can't make me go to a doctor. I don't want to go to a doctor.
Yeah, and that's their choice.
And that's their choice. Exactly. But, when it comes down to a vote, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't want it. I want to opt out. And then there are the different things in the acts that.
Well, and that's why I don't think it should be option. I think we should all have like Medicaid tax. We already pay Medicaid tax, right?
Yeah.
Everyone pays Medicaid tax, and so I just say keep that system, and then add a few words to the Medicaid law take out the words. Actually, we don't even have to add anything. Just take out the words under 65, and instead of Medicaid being only for people over the age of 65, we can allow everyone to buy into Medicare, if you so choose, at whatever rate is appropriate based on your income. And then we've created a system for everyone. And granted, that's going to be a huge expansion of care that's required. Yeah. But if it's handled appropriately, then that's a huge expansion of jobs.
Yeah, there you go.
So
create your jobs, your socialist jobs.
Exactly. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Or
there
Elizabeth Warren.
Well, hold on now. Whoa, hold on a minute now.
Getting into contemporary politics.
Yeah.
Let's have strength here. Fuck Hillary Clinton because she really wants it. Bill is not giving it up here.
Wow.
That's my approach.
That's your approach of it.
And don't vote for her.
Well, here's the deal. I can't have you just political blasting out here because I might have to get these people on.
Is going to be knocking on our door any moment. Oh, right. You're going to.
You know what I mean?
You're waiting for the response from Hillary campaign.
Hello? like they're gonna be like, well, here's the deal. We heard you back talking, and we just want rebuttal. So we'll have
fair time here.
We'll have the hour podcast, but then there would be like a 5-minute. Well, I'm just like, hey, we're gonna take a break from that, and to be honest, here's Hillary Clinton's rebuttal.
To be honest, my refusal to vote for Hillary is probably one of the best endorsements from a lot of people. Like, this guy's crazy. If he doesn't want to vote for Hillary, then we definitely will vote for Hillary. This radical Christian socialist.
This Christian hippie.
Exactly. That's probably the best way to describe me. John has hit the nail on the head.
The
I have
Christian
long hair
hashtag,
and a beard.
hashtag Christian hippie.
And I don't mind. I root for the end of prohibition.
End of
marijuana prohibition, to be more specific.
Well, okay, so let's go to that topic then. Okay, cannabis legalization. All right, let me ask you a question. Let's do this one. Do you believe in decriminalization of all drugs?
I do.
Why?
Yes, I will take that extreme position for you.
Please. Well, you don't have.
No, I actually.
That's how you feel. Do what you feel.
No, I really believe that. Yeah, I'm not just playing devil's advocate. Well, one, I think it's a health problem. It's not a law problem. I don't think that it's any. It's a morality law, right? So they're saying we're not hurting anybody else by smoking marijuana. Or on the flip side, if someone's doing heroin, it's not really hurting anyone else. And some people may argue, hey, you're not contributing to society, but society we don't have an obligation as citizens to work and to have a white picket fence and to have a house. And if some bum chooses to be a heroin junkie who lives on the street, I think that's his freedom as an American, and I'm not going to tell him to do otherwise, even though as much as I think it's awful and I wish he would do otherwise, I don't have the place to say I'm going to use the law to enforce my morality on this whoever. And not, of course, heroin addicts range from famous millionaires to bums. It's not like they're all bums on the street, but obviously, disempowered communities are the ones who fall more victim to drug laws, which is another reason why I oppose them. They're not enforced equally. The majority of drug users are white. The majority of people arrested for drug use are black, or at least minority communities. So, I mean, on all accounts, the drug war has utterly failed. Even if you think that drug use should be reduced as a policy, the drug war has failed because drug use is up. Prices have not gone down, so they're not reducing the supply of drugs. We're just wasting billions of dollars, putting people in jail, and what's good about that?
And I feel like if you give people a reasonable, safe product that's legal and they're not going to get in trouble, then you don't have to go to illegal sources. Right. That could that could cause more harm than good because you know where it's coming from, you know where it is, and I'm just taking marijuana at this point. I mean, like the coke and heroin and a lot of those. Portugal comes to mind that they decriminalized pretty much all the drugs. I believe
they did,
and crime has really gone down. Now,
drug use has gone down too.
Yeah,
among
exactly.
teens as well.
Well, exactly, because guess what? The minute you say, "Don't do this," you can't do this. This is bad. Just say no.
Takes away the cool factor.
When we were in school, it was just say no. It was we would get those PSAs with the Ninja Turtles and all those different characters. Like the kid would come across a marijuana cigarette, a joint, and they're like, "Don't do it. It'll rot your brain."
For life.
Exactly.
It's true. People like it so much.
And there's always been a market for vices, gambling, prostitution.
Yeah.
I mean, prostitution.
All those things I think are not the place of proper law.
Exactly. I mean, and here's the deal. They're like, "Oh, tax it." You know what? Sure, tax it, but create. That's the one thing that
regulate it.
Well, that's
make
it
safe.
That's the thing.
Like alcohol.
Well, and that's the thing too is we're so good at capitalism. We're so good at let's say you started just a business. It doesn't matter what it is, and I'm jealous of your success. Well, guess what? Now I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to try to say "F you." I'm going to be better. So are you telling me that and that's the one thing too is at the end of the line, a lot of people see that end dollar result. They see that money and they go, "Oh man, I want that. That's awesome." You take big Anheuser-Busch, Philip Morris, all these places that sell, and that's what I don't think a lot of people understand is that alcohol is a drug.
Yeah.
That cigarettes.
Food is a drug.
Food's a drug. I mean,
it has an effect on your psyche.
It does. It really does.
You're relaxed,
It's one of those things, and I feel like people, will sit in bars or at podcasts with alcohol in front of them,
As they should.
You know, and not this one, but other people.
I'm drinking.
Well,
right
you
now.
are, you are.
And if you're not, then you should start right now as well.
Trust me, I think that there's some people that will be starting when they're halfway in. They're like, oh my god, this guy. But that go, well, pot's bad and it makes you a stoner and blah blah blah. But they'll sit there with their Marlboro cigarette and their, you know, alcohol and be like, well, see, I'm different. And, and that's what I don't understand. It's like,
it's ass backwards.
it is. It's a lot of, I think, just ignorance of the subject. And I don't think, well, this is the thing, too.
I think a lot of it, sorry to interrupt, but I think a lot of it is.
Well, you did, and screw you. Go
I'm
ahead.
not going to stop. I just was going to say sorry and continue to interrupt.
Should have got a different guest. Continue.
is the better than you factor.
You think so?
Yeah, because if we criminalize drugs and we make drug users, you know,
Dirty
subhuman,
criminals.
dirty criminals, then we're all better than those people, right? And we can't possibly say that heroin should be legal because then we lose that. You know, I don't think that that's like a major conscious role in the drug laws, but I think that plays a major role in sustaining the system that we have.
Yeah.
Is the the sort of status factor of it.
And
that they're better than those people, you know.
Yeah.
Sober, straight people who only use the drugs that our government approves of are better than those who choose to use the drugs that they would, you know, choose to use without the government ordering them or allowing them to do so.
Well, and especially when, you know, there's certain constituents that want it a certain way and various things. I didn't realize this, but that jails have lobbies. Like the Department of Corrections has lobbies. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
They want to make more prisoners. Yeah, that's absolutely what they want.
Because they, you know, a lot of prisons make money off having prisoners in there. You know, and do I think that system's flawed? Yes, I do. Do I think a lot of people that are in there don't deserve to be in there? Yes, I do. But it's one of those things where it's like it's not an easy excuse, but it's an easy reason to be like, oh, you know, he had this on him, you know, or those sort of things. When really, you know, and most of the time, there's a lot of, and that's the thing too is what we're seeing with Colorado and was Montana, Oregon.
There's so many of them now.
Well, there's like 23 that can do it. Is a lot of the times, and I don't have the stats here because we're just talking, just having a good time, Hillary bashing, but you know, we're just having a good time.
Are you voting for Hillary?
What?
I feel a little sensitivity. Are you a Hillary supporter?
No, because it's easy to be like the guy who's just like
not to steer our train away from the drug conversation.
Well, no, you're cool. Just a lot of the politicians are the same. It's you know what I mean, like. It really is like who like I'll probably vote for whoever causes the least damage to my life.
Yeah.
You know, but I really think that there's no that no one can do anything. The machine's so big that the president does have power. I believe the president has the power to do a lot and change a lot of little things. But those big things, you know, like let's take that's the top shelf. The president can't touch that top shelf without getting that 3-step ladder.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, without getting his hand slapped or that 3-step ladder. And who holds that 3-step ladder?
Yeah.
A lot of powerful people. Do I think that there's a cabal out there? No, I don't think that there's a set of. You do well.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Of course.
Please do not call out the cabal. I would appreciate.
We could call it a cabal, or to use less inflammatory language, I would call it a shadow government.
Shadow government.
Yes. Which sounds so radical and so absurd to us.
It sounds better though. It sounds badass. It sounds badass.
But
shadow government.
I think it's pretty obviously what's really happening. What's really going on. The policies. You know, we invaded Iraq 25 years ago under George Bush the first. We invaded Iraq under George Bush the second. We invaded under the Democrat Barack Obama. We've basically waged war on it under Clinton whenever we had the no-fly zones. So there's no change in policy. We're not really like, you know, there's some the policies remain the same. There's some interests behind these so-called changes which are maintaining the same flow. If that,
Do you think
that's
they're
what I
doing?
believe.
Do you think they're doing just enough to be like, oh, we're making changes over there, or oh, we're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they give us just enough crumbs to keep us happy. But to take that shadow government further, I know as it's radical as it sounds, people will be really surprised to find out that there's a sitting senator. Well, he just recently passed away in the last year or so, but Senator Daniel Akaka from Hawaii. That is his real last name, Akaka.
R.I.P.
Yeah, rest in peace, Mr. Akaka, Senator Akaka. He has a quote. You can YouTube it after you're done listening to our excellent podcast
Amazing.
of Daniel Akaka saying on the Senate floor that there is a quote. Now I'm going to paraphrase. This isn't an exact quote, but he did use the words shadow government, which is operating behind our government with its, and this is essentially what he said, that it has its own air force, its own military, its own policy objectives, its own funding, its own interests, and that it is using the levers of our government for its own purposes. And I think that for him to, that was during the Iran-Contra hearings that he said that.
And now
And,
that's if there's
I
one
think it's
thing,
still true.
if there's one thing you should definitely look up is the Iran Contra. You should it affects a lot of different branches and even drug dealers in L.A. Freeway Rick Ross. There's no way I was going to be able to say that without like pronouncing it 3 times. Look him up. Not Rick Ross, the big
Not
fat
the rapper.
not the big fat rapper.
The major cocaine dealer.
Yeah, and
Major crack cocaine dealer.
and
Who
he,
learned his trade from the CIA.
well, he was getting it from there.
CIA associates.
Exactly. It's a nut story, and it's true. Like that's the
Yeah.
crazy part.
That's the thing, and that's kind
It's
of
a
my point
Jason
of this
Bourne movie,
podcast. I
yeah.
know as nutty as my beliefs sound, I think America has gone through the looking glass over the 30 years, and everything has become upside down, inverted, and that our national dialogue, our national narrative, as we've all come to accept it, as, oh, this is the acceptable range of belief and dialogue, and anyone beyond these corners is somehow loony. But I think that we've gone ass backwards, and that almost everything we think is wrong. Everything we know as a country in terms of our national mainstream opinion is wrong. You know, and I see that with a deep love from America. You know, there's a great quote from Martin Luther King. You can only have deep disappointment where there's great love.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so don't take me the wrong way. You know, I want it to change. I want things to get better.
Please take him the wrong way.
But
Continue.
but yeah, so I think that the radical view is in fact quite often not obviously it's not a generic statement. Not all radical views, but generally speaking, the truth will be seen as radical. I think to the American mainstream.
Well, and I think a lot of it's not like your views are radical.
No, it is radical.
It's radical.
I'm totally anti-war.
Yeah.
I'm for free healthcare. I mean, yeah, we've heard.
Well,
right?
AKA socialist, socialist shadow government. He's actually a
I wish we had a socialist
pawn
government.
for the shadow. He's actually, what do they call that?
I'm a false flag. I'm a provocateur. I'm here to collect your names and turn them into the Homeland Security Department.
Well, and like back to radical. They're radical to the people that, you know, work, and as long as they have a paycheck and they can take as long as there's public schools, as long as there's options, as long as there's food, sex, and cell phones.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to stay in their own world, which is fine, because guess what? You have, like we were talking about, until this world becomes a black hole, which really depressed me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm 29. I got 70 years left. That's that's what I thought about, and I'm like, well, what if the apocalypse happens? Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be going after some stuff, man. I've got my exit
Ferguson
strategy.
Looter.
Okay, well, this is the thing. This is the thing. You saved all these,
topics
and
here.
you're throwing them out, and
I still want to stick with the radicalness, which I guess Ferguson plays into a little bit. That kind of ties into the radical theme.
Okay. Well, this is the thing. You threw Iraq at me. You threw Afghanistan at me, and we got to get to that. That's a big subject. I'm like, dude, it's burying the lead. You can't bury the lead. But okay, so Ferguson, especially we live in Missouri, in Kansas City, and about 4 hours away in St. Louis, around there, right? Isn't Ferguson right around there?
Yeah.
Suburb of it is Ferguson, and I haven't kept up with it a super amount, but I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I've paid a decent amount of attention. I'm sure we all know the stories. So I won't.
Well, yeah.
Young unarmed black males shot in the back. by a police officer. I think that's really all we need to know. To know there's something seriously wrong.
Yeah.
know?
Now,
I mean, if you're running from a cop, they shouldn't shoot you. I think.
I agree. Well, this is the thing. A lot of the times, and I've taken a few different criminal law classes, and they've had police officers come in and talk, and one of the main things is, if it's between you or me, I'm going home to see my family. A lot of them have families. Well,
Yeah.
they have a scary job. I understand.
It doesn't
Well,
excuse it.
No, I'm not saying it does. I'm just saying that's the mentality. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? If it comes down to you or me, definitely going to be me,
But see,
not you.
That's how they pitch it, but it wasn't. That's not what it was.
No,
right?
but-
no one was shooting at that cop. He could have gone home without killing someone else.
Well, but that's that mentality.
And he chose to murder
That's
someone.
that fear mentality, though, of I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to
but
see my
see,
family.
they-
I'm not justifying.
I hear you. No, I hear what you're saying, and that's definitely the other side of the story.
Radical.
But I think if we give someone a license to kill, but they have a high responsibility, then I feel afraid I'm going to kill you.
I agree.
And right now there's no accountability, so it's going insane.
I totally agree. Also, to take the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh yes.
Now, a lot of, and that's the thing too, is I think you'll find throughout this podcast that a lot of people can justify a lot to themselves.
Oh sure.
Anyone can
I mean,
justify.
how much of the American population thinks there's nothing that went wrong in Ferguson?
Well, exactly. And any lot, as far as I'm concerned, any loss of life is horrible.
Yeah, of course.
Because that person's life is extinguished. Could it have been handled? Obviously, it could have been handled better. No matter what happened, the only people that know are those people that were involved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and even after that happened, opinions are going to get skewed due to how they feel about the situation.
Well, that's
There's
true.
no one that's super
Yeah.
objective about it
That's
because.
true. But if we just sorry, go ahead.
No, continue. I'm interested.
But if we just look at the plain facts of the case, do you think there's enough evidence to say that Darren Wilson, the police officer who murdered Mike Brown, do you think that he should be charged with a crime based on? I mean, I feel like there's enough evidence just to look at the case and say right off the bat he should be charged.
Well, if anything, I definitely think that there needs to be a consequence to it, and that's the thing is most of the time there isn't a consequence.
Yeah.
To the repercussion, suspension. Okay, great. Okay, so I don't have to work for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to go through some training or some counseling or whatever. That doesn't excuse the fact that you did the ultimate thing, which is take someone's life.
Yeah.
Was it an ideal situation? Did you create an unideal situation? Yes. Now, obviously, there are people that are pro police. And a lot of different subgroups and stuff like that. And all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if you take someone's life, which I'm not opposed to, if your life is in imminent danger, do I want to see it happen? No. I feel like any situation that ends with that could have been handled different. Obviously, hindsight's 50-50.
Yeah. I mean, in my view, I just think he should be arrested for murder, and there's no. I don't want him to be fired. I don't want him to be suspended. I want him to be tried for murder, like I would be if I shot a police officer.
Well, and that's the thing
if
too.
If there was a police officer running away from me, and I shot him in the back and I shot him in the head multiple times, and then I said it was in self-defense, they won't give a shit. I would fry. And that's not necessarily wrong. Anyone who murders someone should fry. But the point is the horrible and inhumane way that this has been inverted. Whenever it's a cop getting shot, we should blame the victim. Or I'm sorry, when a police officer is murdering someone else, we should blame the victim. We shouldn't look at the police officer. So you see, I think that they've really skewed this dialogue to be so pro-police. That it is resulting in murders.
Well,
that's not an exaggeration.
This is the thing that I always find crazy, is so the person who gets shot and dies, they don't have a voice anymore because guess what? You stop their voice by killing them. Well, then anyone, and I think the media is horrible about this. The media is horrible because it's, teen killed. Well, guess what? What angle are they going to take? Do they start with, oh, he was a gangbanger kid, and then they change it to, oh, new autopsy photos? It's all to get that headline. And the real story gets skewed of someone dying. Like, if you think about it, all the times that all those different programs that say, oh, they really don't even mention that he was killed and that he was a person. I love that photos come out. Oh, he was wearing this. I have tons of photos, and you could think that I'm in 8 different kinds of groups just with what I'm wearing. You know what I mean? Like,
they can make anyone look bad if they
you
wanted
can make
to.
anyone look bad,
And if you get killed by a cop, you can believe they probably will.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, oh, why? You know what I mean? It's a very,
and that kind of, to my mind, it shows the huge bias of we're hugely pro-establishment in America. Or another way to put it is we are reactionary. We're not progressive as we think. We're much more like pro-power, pro the establishment. We give them way too much.
I one time got called. Apparently, my name just comes up when it's jury duty. Like, I've been called to jury duty about 4 times.
Yeah, I called once and they didn't take me.
Well, really, Mr.
Surprised.
Radical?
Right.
And I got called one time to federal court. And it can't even really remember the case, but all I remember is the lawyers asked questions, or the judge asked questions. And one of them was, do you believe everything that a police officer tells you to be the truth? And do you comply 100% with police officers and agree with everything they say? Basically along those lines. Who kept his hand down? I did. Because people are flawed.
Yeah.
They just are. I know great cops.
Well, how many people raised their hand?
That's the insane part.
Yeah.
Okay, there was probably maybe 15 people there. At least 7 raised their hands.
They really said you believe everything a cop said? Was that really the
exactly?
The
and then one of them was like brought, and they're like, yeah, they asked him, so you do? And I'm looking around like, this. Am I on candid camera? Because this is insane. I don't believe anyone. I don't believe anything anyone says is 100% the truth. You know what? You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, this guy, because he has a badge, can tell me this. That's not how it goes, at least with me. And this guy goes, yeah, my parents always told me that police officers are there to help you. And I'm like,
they probably just wanted. I'm hoping, like in my mind, I can't bear to believe that. So I'm gonna hope that they just really wanted to be called for jury duty.
Well, okay.
And they were like trying to butter them up.
I never thought.
Grab another beer.
Yeah, go.
Cool.
You can just leave that there. Take your headphones off, and I'll talk. But it was literally crazy for the fact that this person, and then then they go over the other questions. Do you know? Blah 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 blah. All the questions, and I'm like, and I'm still on this question of, you believe everything that a police officer tells you? I go, I don't believe half the stuff my family tells me until I really question and really get down to it. The thing about it is, I didn't get called for jury duty.
Right, you didn't. Yeah. Well, was that the prosecutor or the defense attorney who asked that question?
I was probably the prosecutor, or that's what it felt like. And guess who got called? You can just leave it. That's
the people who raised their hand.
And the one guy who said that he believed everything. I didn't get called.
Yeah, I think jury selection should be random. That's all messed up too. But yeah, that totally shows.
And I wanted to go. I wanted to be on jury duty.
I did too.
Yeah. It's because, and this is the judge. The judge was a great judge, because he came in and he said, "Hey guys, I know we all have better things to do." And he goes, "But let me ask you a question. If you were in that guy's chair," just pointed to the defendant or whatever. I don't even remember what he looked like or what was happening. But wouldn't you want you judging, taking in the evidence? And that made the most sense to me in the world. Because
wouldn't you want you?
Wouldn't you want someone like you on there?
Well, who the hell's you?
You know what I mean? Like but then I realized that none of these people that got picked were like me.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, okay, woo. And I was like, oh no.
The fuel.
Exactly. And it's all just a game and an agenda. I've realized that a lot of things now are just games. then you have to play by the rules. You know, the people who lose out, the people who don't play by the rules, the radicals, if you will.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
I would radically disagree with that.
Okay.
Saying that the only people who make out alive or make it out, in good condition are those who. Not to say you should break all the laws, but I think you got to disconnect from the American mainstream if you want to find truth, to find justice.
Well, I don't think a lot of people.
Good.
I don't think a lot of people in the United States look at world news. Like, look at articles that are written from other countries about us, and
I'm not. I don't even necessarily. It's not just about foreign criticism. I mean, I think.
Well, not
you can use American principles.
Mm-hmm.
We're not standing up to what we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
What we want to be, what we all claim to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of free speech or justice for all,
yeah,
right. I mean, these basic concepts are lacking in reality.
Well, and I really do a lot of the times I think that people, going back to the prison system and stuff like that. I was watching Lockup because I only watch shows that make my life look better. So like Intervention, Locked Up, Cops. Like I'm like I don't have this lives. I'm okay. I'm doing okay.
Right.
I'm not the 600-pound man. You know what I mean? Like those like the TLC shows are the ones that get me the most.
Yeah.
Like Tree Man, or Mermaid Girl. Like those are. I'm like, at least I don't have their life. I'm cool.
Right.
But a lot of the times in those lockup shows or whatnot, they're like, this is Jimmy Joe, and he's awaiting trial. This is his second year.
Yeah.
Awaiting trial.
We all have a right to speedy trial. Don't forget.
Exactly.
We all obviously have, which is another point of the radical agenda here that I will be presenting. Is that the rights that we all pretend that we have is a sad joke that's played on us, and the only people who's laughing are the people at the top, because there's not a speedy trial system.
No,
there's not a fair justice system. I think that it's a joke. People. So yeah, speaking of your point about believing police. So as a radical, as a person who enjoys the relaxing effects of marijuana, I have been arrested before.
And by the way, I wouldn't know by looking at you.
Oh no. But I've never seen a police report that was honest. I never had, and I've read all the police reports, of course, when I was arrested, because I had to get a lawyer to pay my way out of it, which is another way that speaks to the point of injustice, that as a white male with enough resources, I have no record and I have nothing to worry about. And if I was a black male with no resources, I would have a long record. I'd probably be 3 strikes, I'm out.
Probably wouldn't be friends with you either.
There's a totally, it's obviously not an objective, fair justice system, if that's the case, which it is. But anyways, the police reports, I've read them all, and they all had lies. I've never seen a police report in my life that was honest, or didn't, not just like little lies, but explicit. They went out of their way, they knew better, and they explicitly lied. And so yeah, I think people are it's just so much easier for people to think that there's some kind of daddy figure in the government that has our best interests at heart, and just sit back and watch TV and shut up and let somebody else take care of everything for you, right? And in fact, I don't believe that. I think that more people need to lose that easy belief that makes us all feel so much better, and take the hard road, which is to face the ugly truth and say that radical nonviolent action is needed to make changes, and I think, but that's not easy, and that's our major stumbling block.
So what you're saying is you're a component for big business, big oil, less restricted gun laws.
Oh yeah, nailed it.
Tighter
abortion laws, and
there you go.
Let's take away all of the money and food that we give to the poor.
The abortion argument, or the debate, if that's what you want to call it. I've decided that no longer becomes a point of discussion with me
Yeah.
because I do not have a uterus. My stances are my own. I was raised the way I was, and there. Okay, healthcare. There's a stance, and there's a lot of give and take. Like that statement. Okay, that original statement you made to me. Are you for universal healthcare? Everyone having healthcare. That statement there is yes. A lot of the time. Now I took a bit of a skew to it because I do, but maybe not that way. That's how it's done. Abortion. Do you want to terminate a pregnancy? There's super clear lines to it that don't really blur. There's a few that do, but those are more exceptions than arguments to it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? That one is the toughest debate that I think will ever be brought up because it involves a lot of emotional things and a lot of different moral questions that come into play. I think a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's a tough issue.
You know what I mean? But like marijuana, but like drug laws, a lot of people are just for it or against it. But a lot of people
are for them.
What?
The idiots are for them.
Well, and that's the thing.
The unfortunate souls who we need to help.
Well, that's the thing too.
Find the truth.
If it didn't hurt anyone, which it most of the time doesn't, what's the harm of creating a business? What's the harm of bringing more money to your government? Along those lines. Sorry, we're jumping all over the place, and and we'll definitely be on here more and tackling just straight topics. But this is just let's throw it all at you and see what sticks and see who is upset with Matt.
See how much hate mail we can find.
Because I know the game, and I'm playing the middle of the road, or I'm throwing the jab. I'm eventually going to throw more jabs out at Matt and just take the counterpoints to it all. But most of what he's played this really well. He's mentioned are a lot of things that I can kind of get behind, that I don't really have, But then okay, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one issue I'm sure we can probably find disagreement is my radical pacifism. But not only am I against invading Iraq to save us from ISIS, who's hiding under your bushes. Look out, everybody! I'm also against
the headings
the
everywhere.
Next war. I'm against any other war that they propose. I don't even care to hear what country they want to invade anymore. Before they even start, I'm against the war.
The one community that I think that has it down is coming from the whitest guy in the world is the rap community, is the hip hop world, because they say because a lot of the times they've had establishments come into our community, come into their community, come into my community, come into their community and rabble rouse them, come in, illegal searches, illegal, all this stuff, hurt people, whatever, and that's just what it is. But you ask them, and they're like, if you come into my country, you come into my home, and you're trying to attack my family because you have a different ideology than I do, that you think you're helping me, that's why there's that resistance there. That's why they're not like, hey, U.S., let's bring McDonald's. Bring McDonald's to us and give us Christianity. That's the part that bothers me the most, is that we think we can, by force, change the ideology of people that are pretty much fine by themselves, minus the group of insurgents.
Yeah.
I don't think we're dealing with armies here, do you?
No.
I think we've created more armies that are more against us, young, disgruntled men.
Definitely.
Because we've given them a face to hate. We've given them America. Hate America.
Mm-hmm.
Hate the cell phone using America. Instead of the aid and the various things to just, to bring more help to them, we've brought more chaos. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that the situation we have now is definitely the result of our actions.
Well,
but at the same time, I don't support going in there because, as the fact that this situation is results of our actions, like ISIS wouldn't exist without America overthrowing Saddam Hussein. But even aside from that, taking from that, we can see that our efforts are doing no good. It's only making things worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've had 10 years of effort and $1 trillion plus. So, at what point do we just take a step back and say, this isn't working?
Yeah.
Killing people is not helping us with our cause.
Well, but a lot of the times, and that's what America doesn't do, is they don't show, because being over in Europe and stuff, and you see the news, you see dead bodies. You see a lot of that stuff because they have a different view of it. They have a different view of the way the world is. They show you the horrors of war, and we don't get to see that.
No, it's sanitized.
Exactly.
We're the most propagandized nation in the world.
Well, and
I mean, have you read 1984 probably
mm-hmm.
in school?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's obviously we don't have
horrible movie. Horrible movie.
But I think that the idea of the propaganda and the amount of control over thought, as radical as it seems, I think that the American government and the American media has an indescribably huge role in shaping all of our thought patterns and all of our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that even my radicalism is a rejection of the frame that they've created.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm playing in the field that they made for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I mean, and that's just to say that no matter how hard you try, no matter how radical you are, if you live in America and you watch television and you see the billboards when you drive by, then you're imbibing a constant stream of propaganda.
Well, and I think too, that was Ray Bradbury, right?
George Orwell.
George Orwell. Okay. It's funny that like topics like that are always brought up. Movies, Equilibrium, V for Vendetta. A lot of those things that are a lot of not really they are anti-establishment, but they're about they're about getting control back, and it's radical, yeah. But if you saw what was going on, I mean, if people really saw what was going on, they would definitely have a different view of it. Because this is the thing, they're like, this is the thing that I hate is a lot of the news says, 300 insurgents killed, 28 civilians. But we got 380.
And that's not even, I mean, if that was the numbers, I would be a little bit happy about the situation,
mm-hmm.
right? But in fact, it's probably like more, I mean, the way the government classifies, anytime they report those numbers to you on television, the way the government classifies a terrorist is any male between the ages of 16 and like 60 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
16 and an old man. If you're a male older than 16 and you're not elderly,
mm-hmm.
and you died in an American strike, you're automatically classified a terrorist. This is the U.S. policy. Like, you can Google it. You're automatically classified as a terrorist or an insurgent unless someone from that community disproves to the U.S. government that they're not a terrorist, which, of course, never happens.
Files a claim.
Yeah, they just killed their uncle. They're not going to come knocking on the United States door and asking for
what they're probably
going to
do? They're probably going to join.
Exactly.
They're probably going to join.
They have a lot more support for radical terrorist organizations.
So one thing I do, and it's a little ignorant of me, is if I'm going to watch something, I want to watch to be entertained. Okay, call me the lazy American or whatnot, but
no,
but you know what I mean. But it's I want to watch something and take my mind off my life.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. Do you know what I don't watch? And you know what people older than me watch? The news. That is the most violent show in the world, and it really happened. But they don't tell you. Okay, one thing that always bugs me about a lot of the news is it has to be sensational. Okay, priest molestation, shooting sprees, all these things. That's what catches that headline. That's what the funniest. One of the funniest things I ever saw was right before it went to break. It was just the news, and they talked about a car wreck or something. They go, household cleaner could kill your family, or be perfectly fine, like along those lines. But play with it a little bit. But that is the shit that makes people get hooked on to that, almost that negative of, oh, do I have that house cleaner?
Yeah.
Well, and then you read on later that, oh, yeah, if you drink it, it could kill you. Well, that's what it says on the package. But they want to keep you there. They want to keep you eating and stressed and that so they can keep you coming back. And I think that is the worst thing to do. I think it's a cop out, but I watch the news. I know what's going on. Well, a lot of the shows are no spin, 100% the truth. Well, whose truth? It's, you know what I mean? And this is the thing. Right now, I'm playing right down the middle. You know, because the liberals are going, oh, there are shows like that, and then the conservatives are going, there are shows like that too. So I'm not trying to play down the middle and be that guy, but that's how I feel as a 29-year-old white American. I don't want to deal with the sadness of the world by just dealing with the sadness of the world. Do you know how many good stories are just in the news? Just local news. Maybe 2.
Yeah.
You have to go to YouTube. You have to go to various online sources to find, that there's a video out there of 3 Kansas City police officers playing basketball with 3 young African-American youths. You know what I mean? Like that. Why isn't that making the headlines? You know what? Why aren't the good things in the world?
Yeah.
Because good. Do you see what I'm saying? Like good things don't sell.
Yeah, it's true. I think I forget now exactly what study or who did it, but I know that there's been studies showing that negative stories will hook us more than any other. So you'll remember a negative experience longer than you'll remember a positive experience. And
Well,
a negative emotion is more likely to motivate you than a positive emotion. And in a way, it kind of goes back to that same idea of the hard or the easy road, right? If we just sit back and let nature flow, how our minds are sort of primitively programmed, then we're going to be drawn to those negative stories, and the media is going to play into that, and it's going to be this sort of self-reinforcing cycle, right, of negativity, essentially.
Yeah.
But if I think we have to sort of actively choose, like you have probably, it sounds like you've done, to say that we, even though those negative emotions are more powerful, more driving, that we prefer positive stories, or at least, some kind of a mix. And so, I think it's essentially up to every person to make that choice.
There are always bad things that are going to happen in the world. And there's a lot of good things that are going to happen in the world. It just feels like right now that the negative is just kind of outweighing the good, because it seems like it's kind of skewing that way. On those things, obviously there are good things in the world and whatnot, but that's not what they're trying to. That's not what they're trying to tell you. So when you say radical to me, people think, oh, what if they called, radical Muslims, radical this, radical that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a bad word because you shouldn't be different.
Well, exactly.
It's
terrorist. There are a lot of domestic terrorists.
Yeah. Well, to me, radical is a good word, right? And I think that if more people were familiar with it, they would see it the same way.
Are you taking it back? Are you taking radical back?
No, I'm happily a radical because I follow in a tradition that I'm proud of, right? So Jesus Christ was a radical. The person that I worship as God was a radical. Right? He was hung by the state, the empire.
And that you look like.
Yes, who I do happen to sort of look like. He was not hung, but he was crucified, obviously, by the Empire of Rome, right? An establishment force. He was a radical. By any stretch of the imagination, anyone who reads the Bible, he tells everyone to give all their goods to the poor. He preaches about the poor, like, the majority of his sermons at least mention something about the poor. And so, yeah, he's definitely radical. Martin Luther King was a radical. The American patriots, John Adams, George Washington, were revolutionaries, right? They weren't just radicals. They weren't nonviolent radicals like me. They were violent radicals who took up guns and killed the people who disagreed with them.
And owned slaves.
And owned slaves, too, which is an interesting point. Yeah. It's kind of a
Jesus
complex subject.
did not own slaves.
But you see the point, right? There's a long, proud history of radicalism
Mm-hmm.
that we've been divorced from, that we've been, I think, actively. There have been establishment forces that over the last 50 years or longer, who knows, how long, have actively suppressed that tradition
Mm-hmm.
and tried to discourage it. And so I hope that we all proudly take up the radical flag and run with it, in the spirit of Martin Luther King, in the spirit of the Patriots, in the spirit of Jesus, in the spirit of Gandhi, in the spirit of even, Malcolm X or the Black Panthers
Mm-hmm.
or all sorts of what I consider to be proud radical traditions.
Yeah. Now they're radical, and obviously some of their ideologies were pretty radical. Um, so it's not a bad thing, but it's very nice.
That was for all you YouTubers.
He's crying. He's crying because he believes in
I love you so
radicalism. Radicalism so much. He just basically said he's Jesus. Now, if we break contact
No,
for
he's
years and I find out that you're somewhere in Louisiana
No, I do not
running
compare
a
myself.
cult,
That would be blasphemy. Let's be clear. I'm not comparing myself.
but this is how it starts.
But
It starts.
No,
it starts
it-
this way of
Every-
I have an idea and I want, you know what? I want one person to just come hang out with me for a while. Start wearing Puma
No
shoes.
I encourage independent thought, which is also radical.
That's what you say till you get followers, and then they, and then they start worshiping you.
That sounds kind of creepy.
That-
I don't know if I can handle it. I think I just run away, leave them all very disappointed.
What if you started your own cult but then became a radicalist against your own cult?
Yeah,
You're like, this establishment's horrible.
I'd be the outsider, the endless radical.
But they're like, but sir, this is
your
you.
cult.
This is your cult. Nah, you started another cult.
It's a shadow cult. There's a shadow cult operating, pulling all the strings.
A shadow cult. That is hilarious. Jeez. Okay, so the thing I love,
Well, one last
okay.
point I wanted to make on radicalism.
radicalism. This is hashtag
Is-
radicalism.
Yes, let's keep that theme going.
The
is
hippie
that-
at the hippie.
Is at the hippie, tweet me. Is that
Tweet me.
radicalism? What radicalism means is you're opposed to the current system,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you have a radical disagreement with the status quo. And if you poll Americans, the overwhelming majority of Americans think that our country is headed in the wrong direction. I think that the government is not responsive to the citizens, which is totally true. We don't have a real democracy. And so on so many levels, the American public is radical.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are radical. They just so many people don't want to embrace that word because they think it's a dirty word.
Mhm.
And so many people just aren't engaged and haven't been stirred up. They're not angry about
Yeah.
it, But if we're really honest about the average American's beliefs, I think that the average American is radical.
Yeah. Well, and I think we were kind of built, like you said, on a country of radicals. A lot of, we didn't want to pay taxes to the king. We were living in a different world. We were across the ocean.
Yeah.
Guess what? Come
Well,
over
and to
here and take it.
For me to maybe I'll flip this in a new direction and stop beating my radical dead horse. But an interesting.
Wait,
maybe this is even more radical.
real quick.
Yeah,
Are you a radical?
I am a radical.
Okay.
Let's
Sorry,
keep using that
continue.
word.
It's a radical.
Someone I hope that out there, I hope is keeping count.
Obama,
And we'll
radical.
post this on our YouTube
It's gonna be a
comments.
drinking game.
How many
It's gonna kill
radical
people. There you go.
words appear in this?
Anyways, back to your statement.
Yeah, but no, there's an interesting book came out recently by a guy named Gerald Horne. His last name is spelled Horne, and he's a professor. I've forgotten what university in I think in African American studies or history, that kind of thing. But he has written a book recently called "The Counter-Revolution of 1776," in which he argues that sure they were radical. And in some ways, they picked up guns and they led a revolution. That's obviously very radical. And he argues that they were in fact a counter-revolution, that the American patriots were leading a rightward, reactionary
Mhm.
response to what was a more liberal British policy request. And
Really?
it's kind of an interesting twist. And to support it, he goes back a couple of different things. One of them is he mentions how Britain had created immigration limits, right? That said, to the colonists, including George Washington and other wealthy colonists who wanted to acquire more land, they couldn't go beyond certain westward lines because these were Indian lands, and Britain didn't want to keep sending troops to fight and die to keep colonized expansion. So they said, we've got enough land now. We're making what we need on the money side and the
So
resources
just be
side.
happy.
So yeah, stop going into the Indian territory and requiring all this British military, assistance and all that. And that was the law. Well, Washington and others were actually illegal immigrants, in no stretch of that word. They crossed over the line that the British said you shouldn't cross,
Really?
and would start to settle into what was considered Indian territory. It's no exaggeration to say that they were illegal immigrants.
They
Right, which is a
prefer
funny
Native
twist.
American. Just saying.
But and then another side he takes is, so that was one of the policies that they weren't happy with, right, that caused them to want to overthrow British powers, so they could continue to expand, right? So in that view, you could see the British as being pro-native rights, more progressive, more peaceful, and the American colonists who wanted to break away from that in order to colonize more Indian land, you could paint them as the fascists or the extremists or the rightward people. And then on the other side was slavery, because the British had recently started to outlaw slavery. They were pushing towards that, right? They were pushing towards abolition. And obviously America at the time was built on slavery. And so the colonists, he argues, partially revolted because they wanted to maintain the institution of slavery.
Well, and also, too, think about this. Someone across the ocean's making laws, and they're not there against you.
Yeah, it is absurd. I mean,
it's like...
I support it, but
It's almost like... It almost seems like outgrowing... like 16, when you're 16, and I knew you when you were 16,
right?
And a lot of the time you didn't do what your dad said. You know what I mean? You're just, but all 16-year-olds do that.
Sure.
Where it's, it's a rebellion. So you think about it, you outgrow a certain, and you kind of peacock out. You kind of like, guess what, man? I'm screw you, man. Screw you. You don't know me. And a lot of those times, well, obviously that's a big simplification of it, but I've never really heard it that way. That's kind of interesting. So now that I brought up your dad and you have different points of view, correct?
Yeah, well, sort of. He's always coming closer to my position, I feel like, over time.
You feel like you're just beating him down.
No, I think the Republicans are beating him down. He wants to stay with
them,
but they're just so extreme and crazy that he can't bear to endorse that anymore. So
I don't think that they got a lot of. I don't think they got a lot of good characters to help them. Okay,
they're insane.
In any community,
it's a joke.
You take any community, they're always the ones that are like, "Oh no, he showed up." You know what I mean? There's always the, "Oh man, 6,000 years old." You know what I mean? Like the dinosaurs were here 6,000. Like there's the ones that even they're like, we're not going to talk about that issue, but they're the ones that bring up that issue. You know what I mean? And I think it's crazy. Every community has it where you're like, oh no, whoever's here. I was thinking about, not about people I know, but I was just thinking names I know, and I'm like, no, I don't want to call them. I don't want to be like, oh, that person, because it's not. But a lot of the times it's that kind of community. It's just funny to see you, because I kind of grew up with you, and I saw the way you were going, and I'm like, this guy's probably going to take the fringe. This guy's going to go on the fringe, and your dad, being a teacher, he's not an established guy, but he has his way. So now that you're both, you're an adult, and he's an adult, and he's had, and I think, sorry, I'm jumping, but I'm just setting it up for people that, your dad has had time to not adjust to you, but to understand where you're coming from, and that's kind of cool, isn't it, to see where before you'd pick, because I was there half the time where you'd pick a subject. And it would be like, Bill Clinton or whatnot like that. And then you'd get your dad started. And then it would slowly start with little jabs, like just kind of out the corner of your eye, like, oh, really? So you're okay with a 15% tax increase on blah? And you'd be like, well, yeah, I am. Or what, you know what I mean? Or not that, but along those lines. And I think that's kind of interesting to see where that kind of goes, where you guys can actually talk politics now. And it's fun. It's fun to watch you two be around each other. And the different things you read and the things he reads, it's one of those really funny things that I think it's kind of cool, that you can kind of talk about it. And that I
appreciate disagreement and diversity.
Well, I mean, that's pretty radical of you too.
It is.
Hashtag
It is radical.
Hashtag radical. By the way, this is getting twittered out as hashtag radical. But yeah, I think this country was founded on a lot of things, but I think it was a lot of Puritan work ethic and belief of and I still think we feel that way. I mean, Europeans are so much way more laxed about a lot of stuff. I know we're getting back to this again, but it sets up why we're different than the world. Don't you think? Do you think we're different than the world? We're different than the other countries?
I think every nation is different than other nations.
You think so?
Yeah, but I think what you're kind of touching on, though, is American exceptionalism, right? Which is the idea that we are exceptional, which is, I mean, I think that's true, but I also think that it's kind of exaggerated because all nations are exceptional in their own ways.
We're such a young country, too.
Yeah. We're not that established, but I just think American exceptionalism, generally speaking, is used as a way, as it's more like American superiority. It's used it's
elitism.
It's of course sort of a veiled way for people to see America as somehow better or above other nations, and therefore it's okay that we decide what Iraq's future is and not Iraq, or it's okay that we decide Pakistan's future, or Yemen's future, or Libya's future, or all the other nations that we've overthrown in the last 50 years.
What I don't understand is when did we become the world police? Yeah. When did we're a superpower? Yes, and we've helped out with the world wars. We have, but just because we have the resources, we have to get involved.
Yeah,
that's what I don't understand.
And in some ways, that's kind of where I at least break from the liberal tradition. Is typically liberals are the ones who argue for America as some sort of a world police, as an international actor. And I personally lost faith, and I think a lot of progressives have lost faith in that idea, which, I think is not a good idea in the first place, because I think we need a world police, right? A true world police, not American police. Yeah. If they're going to have any kind of international action, it should be multilateral, many nations involved, so yeah, my take on any kind of humanitarian action, if it's just us or just the people we pay plus just us, then I'm against the war.
I think it's crazy when, let's take what happened in Egypt. The first question is, how's the United States going to handle this? We're in the United States. They're Egypt.
It's their country.
Or when there was potential talk of going to Syria.
Yeah. Well, we've already invaded Iraq, we're going to invade it again.
But that's the thing is, the outcry finally came there. Like, well, at least maybe not an outcry, but
we did stop Syria.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It
was remarkable.
Because we can and we can do it. It's one of those things where it's like, but it was like, no, we don't want it, dude. We're already over there. We're over there 2 other times. We're in 2 different places.
Yeah,
and they're like, but this would be for your own good, and they're like, for whose good? Not our good.
Yeah,
it's nice to see that kind of response for it, and obviously, the radical having the radical view. Apparently, I've been turned radical.
I hope so.
Join us. I'm turning radical.
Join us on the right side.
You know what? This is no longer the Dancing Bear podcast. This is the Radical Bear podcast.
RadicalAction.com.
RadicalAction.com. There's probably a website.
Radical Nonviolent Action. Let's be clear. Don't flag us NSA.
See, there we go. We have NSA, Hillary Clinton, all the key stuff that they look for. It's going that way. Flags.
Flags. All over this fucking podcast. Oh, jeez.
The Radical Bear podcast.
I'll have to believe that one. Can we curse on YouTube? Is that allowed?
Well, you already did like the first 5 minutes.
Did I?
Yeah,
I missed the first one. What's the policy?
I think he's something about.
You should have informed me beforehand.
It wouldn't have mattered. You were still going to say it. You got me to say shit. So.
What is there a policy? I guess I don't think so. Mature only listening.
Well, I'm going to probably have to put not safe for work. But that's what radical. This is my.
If you're listening to YouTube at work, something's already very not safe about your decision.
Well, I eventually want to get it on the other platforms, but I have to do more work, and it's just more fun to talk and talk to
Yeah.
my friends, talk to
Yeah.
radicals about how they're crazy. The best part is, after we get done with this, I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna put up a disclaimer before it, and just go, John Thane of the Dancing Bear Podcast do not endorse these statements made by Matt Smith.
Right. Well, let's see. Which statement?
No,
Wait,
I'm just jacking with
Yeah,
you.
I know.
But I could
I had to
think
call you out.
I could think of you know what? The last section. I know we're about a minute 25 in. Hey, can you believe that? An hour and 25
No,
minutes just
I can't.
talking this way.
Yeah.
So you bring up a topic, and I'm gonna obviously nothing like horrible, but I'm gonna take the counterpoint to it. Bring up a subject.
It's bad.
What did I say? I no, like that's not gonna work.
No, I don't want you to take the counterpoint. I want a genuine disagreement.
Okay.
Those are more
I'm trying
fun.
to. Well, okay. Give me a subject. Well, run through some
What
subjects.
about war?
War?
Do you agree with my radical view of war?
Here's
Here's another point I'll say. War. Let's stop calling it war. Let's just call it what it is: mass murder.
Oh, okay. Well, let's
Right.
go. Okay, let's go. Let's go to this then.
Okay, more radical.
Okay. Radical extreme Doritos. Are they gonna have radical Doritos out?
They should. I would buy.
You know
them.
what? Surge is coming back. Maybe they can use radical as their tagline.
Who's that?
Surge. You remember Surge? The
Oh
drink?
no, I had no idea.
But it's coming back.
I remember it though.
You remember
yeah,
Surge though?
Yeah.
Anyways, at the grocery store that was in Raytown, just right down the road. Man, we walked everywhere growing up. Sorry to get back on neighborhood, but now back in my day, you could walk on the neighborhood and not get picked up by child molesters. But that was crazy. We would walk those places, and there were payphones everywhere. You remember that?
Mhm.
And then it became like the age of driving. Got older and drove around stuff. But that was
Right.
we grew up in a community where you could walk to your friends. I walked up to Matt and David's house all the time, and the best was in the summer. And I don't know how they did it. Who got, was it your mom or your dad that hired the babysitters?
I don't know.
Because whoever
Question.
did, prime job, like the hottest high school girls at that time
Yeah.
would watch David and Matt, and I'm pretty sure Matt could have watched David. Like, obviously it was probably not, because they were brothers and they'd get into fights and stuff, and David always got hurt. You know what I mean? Like David.
Yeah.
There's some great David stories. Anyways, they would always have the hottest
Girl,
babysitters.
Yeah.
And there was one that we drove crazy. I think we literally drove her crazy. Made her cry. I think David and I did. You didn't. You kind of were like at that weird age where it's like, in like a year or two, I could probably date her. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? At that
Right,
age.
right.
But they always had hot. The summer was always weird because you guys were always in Boy Scouts too. That sucked because my birthday, you guys would always go to Boy Scout camp. So like
That's
I
a
had,
bummer.
dude, you know what I mean? And that's
That's
one
not
thing
right.
too. Well, okay.
I apologize.
Well,
On that fact.
I don't think it was
so
really,
many years later. I do wish.
I-
That's not right.
that's what you know what? That's what the whole podcast was about. That's
So
what
this
I was
whole
looking.
thing was-
How dare you
the
miss my
last
birthdays?
Hour and a half has been just for this.
Just all I wanted was the justification of you missing my birthdays at Cool Crust. By the way, one of the coolest places in the world.
Yes.
But like the summers were really cool because we would go to, like I would just show up and then it'd be like, oh, it's been the day until dinner, and when you didn't have a hot babysitter, you had your grandma, and your grandma was awesome,
Yes.
and she had this big. It was a Lincoln. It had to be a Lincoln. I can't remember what kind it was, but it was. If she ran into you, you die because this thing was made out made out of steel.
It was a beast.
It was a monster. I don't even know how she drove it through drive-thrus half the time we went. Anyways, but that was the community we grew in where you could do a lot of things. But so now, I just figured out a subject that we could talk about: Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts.
What about their stance on almost like a "don't ask, don't tell" policy
I
for
think
the
they
homosexual community?
is that their current policy? I haven't kept up with it. I know that previously they banned gay scouts, but I thought that they had changed it.
I'm not. I don't. I know that they basically. It almost seems like they kind of let things lie, and I don't want to get into the trouble with the Boy Scout community. But what? Okay, so not the Boy Scouts, but what do you think about those communities that?
Well,
exclude-
I could address that. So I mean, if they still maintain that policy, then I'd be against it. I think that we should openly welcome all boys, including gay boys. Obviously, there's some
Well,
complications with that. I mean, you've got to kind of
Well, I don't think
We
it
would-
was more
we would-
about the kids being gay.
No, it
But
was.
no, it was about the
if well, or a man, either way.
Yeah.
But if a kid comes out as gay, he's essentially exiled from the scout. Or previously,
Exile.
yeah, he was
Dude.
exiled from the scout. He was told, "No, don't come back." And I think that's an awful way to go. I think that
Mhm.
The message of Christianity that so many Americans take as mainstream, so many Americans claim to adhere to, demands inclusivity, demands that we welcome everyone with open arms, regardless of what sins or we think they have committed or not committed. I don't think it is a sin to be gay, but even if
Mhm.
someone did, it doesn't justify that reaction.
Mhm.
So I think that we should always welcome
Well,
everyone.
one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize, and I've read a few basically papers written by rabbis in the Jewish community, that everyone pulls off. I believe it's Leviticus. Is that verse where a man should not lay with a man and a woman should not lay with a woman? But they talk that there's a whole list of things that you can and can't do, or things you shouldn't do. Well, this is the thing too. Is a lot of people just take picky and choosy people. Like, oh, I like this quote, I'm going to take it. I'm going to put it on a sign, and I'm going to hate people.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not going to hate them. I'm just not going to agree with them, and I'm going to try to let other people know how I'm feeling. But a lot of the time, sorry, back to the point, was this paper. Sorry, was when you're building a nation, which the Jewish people were when they were in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You probably shouldn't eat shellfish. If not cooked right, probably not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Different things you can eat, different things you can wear. Well, if you wear them at certain times and all these different things, there's different rules basically for.
I'm rubbing my beard hair on the microphone.
It's very
make it obvious.
Yeah, big old scratch here.
Did you hear it? I was wondering.
That's the scratch. That's the scratch of the beard. You can't really hear the rustle, but when you're building a nation, it doesn't help if you have women laying with women and men laying with men.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not gonna make soldiers. You're not gonna make carpenters. You're not gonna make things you need to build a nation.
I think that's a great point. Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
People take it for granted that this is supposed to apply to everyone, but if you read the text, it makes it absolutely clear that those laws that were given in that section of Leviticus were for the ancient Israelite community. If you're not it's literally in the verbs. Like if you go back to the original language, they have verbs in ancient Hebrew were gender based, right? So if you could tell from the verb who they were addressing, right? And from the verbs that were used in those verses, it's clear that they were addressing only Jewish males, because the book's written for the Jewish society, and it's a male-driven verb. So it's you get the idea, right?
Yeah,
like you said, it's limited to that group, and it doesn't apply to modern society. We can eat shellfish. We can wear mixed fibers.
Yeah.
We can tolerate homosexuals without stoning them to death.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
and that's to continue my small rant here. But with the Leviticus verse, I think that goes back to the ass backwards theme, right? The total through the looking glass theme, because they use this verse to condemn homosexuals. The same verse that they're using to condemn homosexuals orders them to stone homosexuals to death.
Yeah.
And violating God's law is also not, something that the Bible is very fond of. So if they're not stoning homosexuals to death, then they're breaking that law just as much as the homosexuals are, right? Because that's the commandment.
Well, exactly.
The commandment is to stone homosexuals to death.
But
in Leviticus, that's what it says.
The command. But this is funny. Isn't this weird? Because then there's the commandment, thou shalt not kill.
Yeah. Which,
it's different. It's different.
Complex.
But you know what I mean? Like there's always these ins and these outs.
But to be clear, the Old Testament uses the death penalty so often that a lot of Jewish scholars argue that it was just to make a point, and that they didn't actually kill all these people.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, we don't want to, badmouth the ancient Israelite community here.
Yeah. In no way am I down.
You get the point.
Yeah, well, in no way am I downplaying the Ten Commandments, because if anything, if you take religion out of it and someone just told you the Ten Commandments, you're like, you know what? I could probably live my life by that and probably live a decent life.
People forget, though, the first 5 commandments are nothing to do with morality. The first 5 commandments all have to do with worshiping God. I think the first one is that you shall not worship any other gods
Yeah, you should
before
take any.
our God. The second one is that I'm probably messing up the order, but it also says that you should never use the Lord's name in vain.
Mm-hmm.
You should honor the Sabbath, right? So, I do support your idea that the 10 Commandments are like common sense and we should all kind of use them. But at the same time, I like to stress those lesser known commandments because they're
it's one of those things too where like you said, it's kind of a religious thing, but think about this. If you're a leader, you got your people out of a tyrannical slavery, and the Jews have been enslaved a ton of times. You know what I mean? It's just it's a hard, like, that would be that's a tough group, the Jews, the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. But anyways, having Moses, it must have sucked to be Moses. Let's take it as
burden.
But because this is the thing, they go, Moses, you saved us. Where are we going? And he goes, we're gonna go this way. We're gonna go away from Egypt, and we'll eventually get to Israel. We'll go back to our promised land. We'll be good. And they go, well, and I kind of read into it a little bit and read up on it some more. Is think about this: if there are generations that have known living in a polytheistic religion where there's multiple gods for everything, they may not rub off on you, but it's probably easier to worship them.
Yeah.
So, and think about this: if all of the people that are keeping you in control are gone, probably gonna go a little buck wild. Guess what? Now I can do all the stuff I didn't get to do. Sure.
Well, speaking of Moses, there's a story of when Moses goes to get the 10 Commandments, and the Jewish people, whenever their leader leaves, they go crazy.
That's what he did.
Start worshiping the golden calf, and they have an orgy.
Well, because they're like, who should we worship? Who should we worship? Because guess what? There was no physical idol of their god. It was just this is God. Along those lines. So when he left, they're like, what if he doesn't come back? Because people just didn't come back. People died. It's we're talking Old Testament style. Things happen, and he came back down, and he came back with almost a set of rules, a set of commandments to help lead. It's like management tips from God. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah,
because it's like, hey, don't be coveting each other's stuff. Don't be killing each other. Honor me. All these different things, and I think it really sets a pace, and I really kind of think it's almost like if you take that and tell people that, it doesn't matter what your religion is. You kind of see like, oh, I could totally understand why that happened. I could totally understand where you're coming from there, because there was no leadership. There's one guy. You have to think about setting up a whole nation. That's crazy. And don't keep looking at the time like, oh, are we done? Because I'm talking. I listen to you talk about radical stuff all the time.
I'm just wondering how you're going to edit it. I'm like, yeah.
I'm not. I'm just going to let it go. Nice. I don't edit. Nice. I'm just going to let it happen. I'm
keeping it real.
I think it's a good conversation. People, and the best part is there's a lot of not stopping points, but there's a lot of sections where they just kind of end itself. Maybe not the first hour because we jumped over the place and all over the place, but stuff like that. So, we've gone about an hour 38 minutes. So we can kind of buckle.
No, I don't want to. No, continue your point, please.
No, man, I'm apparently done talking. Apparently, it's all about the radicalization of the United States being radicals.
I get your point. What you were saying, I think you were touching on the 10 Commandments universality. Right?
Nah, it's.
Oh, come on.
No, man, it's cool. I bet if I had said that Moses was a radical, you'd be okay with it.
No, I wanted you to continue.
Nah, man, don't worry about it. Just invite you on my podcast, and some of the stuff you're saying is pretty not out there, but it's on one side, and probably gonna lose friends and viewers from it. My 40. By the way, please subscribe to the show. Get with me on Facebook, John Thayne, Facebook. Thayne, last name. Please friend me, ask any questions. If they're the political questions that weren't asked about me, Matt Smith, he's not on Facebook because he just has to be on Twitter, right? Just Twitter.
I'm anti-Facebook.
At the hippie, spell the hippie because you spell it different.
All right, it's THEHIPI.
One more time because it's a little fast.
THEHIPI.
Don't look at me like I'm the slow one. I want to make sure people can get it.
I appreciate that.
Because if not, they're going to go to John Thane, THAYNEJOHN, and ask me questions. And guess what? They're going to get forwarded to you. And then there's just going to be, no, I'm going to leave the room and I'm going to let you answer these questions. And then when you're done, you're going to hit the stop button. And then I'm going to put it up and I'm going to be like, this is just what he had to say about the whole situation. Again, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. This was fun because this. Whenever we go to lunch, this is what we talk about for an hour, and it's like, oh man, I gotta go. But of course, he's like, oh, that's cool, man. I'm gonna go to the free trade soap shop that's up on the way. They make their own soap out of goat's milk, and I was calling him a hipster, disguised as a hippie. And he did not take kindly to that. But now that I just know you're a radical hippie, which seems kind of oxymoronic on that way. Because
the word you're looking for is redundant.
Redundant, the Department of Redundancy department.
Yeah. I do that well.
Yeah. But the thing is, the cool thing, I'll have you on again and we'll talk. Well, if anyone wants to just give me a subject, and I'll definitely do a little more research into it and have Matt kind of look it up and kind of do it. And then we'll have a debate and do it that. And plus, if anyone out there is listening that has a guest, please let me know. And I'll go ahead and contact them and see if I can get them on. I love politics, combat sports, anything that's interesting that's going on in our world politics. It's all fun. And I hope everyone enjoys. And please subscribe and please tell your friends and please share it. This has been the Dancing Bear Podcast. I'm JT signing off.
Matt Smith, the radical.
The radical.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you guys.
You.
Have a week.